We are waiting on Jameson. She's probably coming, but they are probably coming. I'm sorry. Just want to make sure I get their pronouns right. So I'm going to do announcements, and then if people trickle in, it'll be cool. Hi, Jenny. It's so nice to see your face and see you here. Welcome.
I think
Um, so the announcements that I wanted to go over real quickly um, is, of course, that we are doing the Midnight Library from that Haig for everybody who's watching. And then know that we might be filming on Facebook Live or TikTok Live, and the audio or the feed could be weird. So nobody panic. They can always watch after. We're just trying to figure it out and get it right. But it'll be on the podcast and on YouTube. Wanted to give the trigger warning about suicide ideation, attempted suicide, and to please reach out to Right Love on Your Arms or any type of suicide intervention specialist, therapist, what have you. Um, and if you need resources, you can get those below. I'll put it on all the recordings. New other announcements are we have the podcast is up. Stephanie made our playlist for this song. Merch is ready for buying. New additions are added to the website. Still taking requests from anybody. Okay, and then we're going to go over the contest for this book. So I'll keep watching the little participants to make sure I'm not missing anyone. So I'm sorry if I'm looking to the right. I just don't want to let somebody in the room. Oh, hi, Emily. You're not poolside. You look so pretty though.
no, I thought about it and we decided the sun's not on the pool deck right now, so it'll be a little chilly for me. So I'm inside. But you get to see greens because I didn't have my favorite color green in the bathing suit. But yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Um, so the contest for this one is that's another person we're waiting on is Victoria. She won the book quiz that we took at the beginning, and the book that she won was The Atlas Six by Olive Blake. And I'm bringing this up because the person who gets best attendance in the raffle, you can either get book goodies that pertain to like your personality, or you can get the book that you won or that you got, the result that you got on the quiz. You can get that sent to you. So either choice, whichever one you want. And then right after this, we'll have our MVP nomination. So you can go, make the post, and then you can nominate whoever you thought really helped you enhance reading the book. The only person you can't nominate is me. But you can nominate Erin if you would like, because I love sending her. It's just my favorite person to gift. But yeah, and sometimes it's rightfully deserved because she has really, really good predictions. And I think, oh, more meetings will be starting at 7:45. I notoriously see Udi even agrees. You do have really good predictions for things. And Udi's hair is down. It's so beautiful. Um, I just noticed how long it is.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really long.
Yeah, I know you did on the first time that we met, that you had a darker shirt on, so I couldn't tell
Yeah, it blended
how
right
long.
in.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been working on it for like 20 years now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I bleached it and it's finally coming back and it's all healthy.
Beautiful. And then usually we'll probably go till 9:30 or 9 o'clock. But on the last meeting of the month, it is always a little longer because we have more things to go over. Um, but if you need to come later, leave early, you can. No worries there, no expectations. And then I wanted to announce, oh, Victoria, I cannot get into the Zoom meeting. Victoria's saying she cannot get into the Zoom meeting. Okay, honey, hold on. I'm such a dilber. I'm so sorry, you guys. Copy. Go into the messages. Thank God I got that alert. I better tell Jameson too. Um, oh, I might not make it tonight. Okay. Oh, okay. And those are the only ones we were waiting for. So, I told Victoria, so hopefully she sees that and gets it. Ah, Tabitha, Admit, and Victoria. Now we can really get into the welcome, Victoria. I'm so sorry. I'm very unlike myself today. I don't know why. I think it's the new moon energy. I'm really goofy, and I got the number wrong. I'm so sorry. And welcome, Tabitha.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. So good to see you. It's so everyone. I can't believe how full the room is.
It's a book club meeting, baby.
Okay. So we already went over all the announcements. We're good with that. We're going to do our I changed it for the t-shirts. I'm calling it, instead of best attendance, because that kind of sounded like lame a little bit for me. Remarkable presence is what we're going to change it to for shirts for people who are, or bags or books or whatever you want. But let's see who gets it. So got everybody already in here, and for the sake of time. We got one. The chat. I can open that now. No need to be sorry, Victoria. I'm crazier than a bed bug. Patricia won. Patty, yay! It's so awesome. So you get to
Thanks, guys.
You get to decide if you want sent over to you, or if you want to have your book goodies, any kind of, they all pertain to like your personality. So they're kind of tweaked to they like bags, books, like journals, little buttons, like say book nerd, little fun things like that. So you get to pick, you let me know, and you'll message me and give me your address on Facebook Messenger. It'd be great. Okay.
I will, thank you.
Yeah. That's so cool because you're new. Oh my gosh, we have a rookie award too. I forgot to put down, guys, I'm all over the place. We will do the rookie too. Okay. We're gonna start with questions now. So you guys can talk and I can kind of that moon is getting to me. The first question is from Kristen. And she asked, was the color of the books ever really explained? And Stephanie chimed in response and said she believed it referred to Nora's growth. And I wanted to know what everybody else thought it symbolized to you. Like what green or what her library being, dominant in green, what that would symbolize to you as a person. Or if you caught it in the book specific, what you thought it was. And we, of course, will go in opposite alphabetical order. So that would be Victoria would be first.
Okay, so I am so sorry, but my husband was coughing like a madman for that whole entire question just now. And I was so ADHD and I was tuning into that. So admittedly, I hate that I have to ask, but will you please? I usually have to ask you to repeat the question because I'm ADHD.
No.
Can you repeat it for me, please, my love?
I'm not at all shocked about this because you have like that witchy aura woo to you, and the moon also throws you off a little bit. So it's totally fine. It's just, what do you think the symbolism of the green books? And like, I believe the library has like a nature theme. And so she saw that it meant growth, that she thought it felt growth, but what would that mean to you specifically?
I think that it spoke to it, like it does speak to me about growth, and I think growth like rooting, like each root, right, can take branches and grow new roots, and it's kind of like it's almost like a horticulturist like growing like research station, it feels like. The green does feel very like growth oriented, and like you're gonna grow in a way or learn a lesson in a way through this experience. But Yeah, I guess I haven't thought too deeply about like what color they are. Um, I just, yeah, I think it could be growth for her, especially with the like foresty theme of the library.
I did a little Google search of like what green symbolizes, and the biggest one was transformation. So as we go forward, if that was something that hit for somebody, just let us know. Tiff, you're next.
So I would love to take credit for this one, but I cannot. My wife actually mentioned to me that the heart chakra is represented by the color green. And so that's like healing, love, and then like you just said, transformation. So I think all of those things that's like the whole premise of like her journey, I feel like. So it made a lot more sense to me when she brought that up.
Yeah, that is so spot on for that. I would have never even, and that did not come up in my Google search. So kudos to the wife.
Yes.
Uh-huh. How about you, Tabitha? Did you have any
Funny.
association to, and I have to unmute you, I'm so sorry. Did you have any thoughts on the green shade? I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's not unmuting. Are you hitting the little unmute? But this happened to somebody else who was new. Emily. It happened to Emily. Um, she had to leave and come back in. She wasn't able to unmute herself. You're trying to do it. Do you want to leave and come back? Okay. We'll come circle back to you when you come in. So that would be next would be Stephanie.
Okay. I was trying to find which page it was on, but I think it does have to do with her growth because, like what Victoria was saying, the root, you're having your roots go down and they just go wherever they want to go because she has all those infinite lives to live. But the alternate universes, you know, alternate timelines. So I think it does have to do with growth. And I also think it does have to do with the fact that she is environmentally conscious too.
See, you guys are so smart. You're right. She is in like National Geographic stuff. She's one of those glacier people. She is really into nature. That is so fitting for her personality. Good call. And then we would actually go on to I believe it's you, Udi.
Patty.
It me. It's okay. It's all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I was really thinking about the forest thing. I've never let the forest thing go. I know that a lot of my other theories kind of went out the window, but this one, I think it solidified it for me when instead of the library getting destroyed in an earthquake or like flooded, it had a fire. And you think about a forest fire and how it kills off all the bad and kills off everything so that they can regrow into something beautiful. And I think that the fire is what completely solidified for you guys cannot tell me it wasn't a forest this whole time. And that is what I thought.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. She even talks about the smell of like the foresty smell. Yeah, that's really fitting. Tabitha, hi. I see you're unmuted.
Hi.
Is your video work?
Okay.
You don't have to be on.
Okay. Trying to find myself in the group of people.
It's okay.
I've never done Zoom on my phone.
It's okay. It's a learning curve for me too on my phone. It's easier for me on a computer.
Yeah, I've done them for like work meetings and stuff, but I've never done it on my phone. I can't even see myself.
Yeah, we can't see you either. Do you want me?
No, I mean, Like I can't see my thumbnail.
Oh,
So on your phone, you
Mhm.
have to actually like go down to like the bottom little bar where it says video, and you have to start the video. It doesn't automatically put your video on.
You also won't see the
That
controls
video.
unless you tap on somebody. If you tap
Here
on
I am.
somebody, you see.
Hi. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm new. I just joined the other day, but and I know you said newbies don't have to join, but this is JoJo. Um uh but I've actually read this book, so I was super excited to be able to join.
I love that.
And I didn't think about the color representing anything, but I thought like the different shades meant like the different variations of the lives. And each one was a little bit different, just like the different colors of green.
Yes, yes, I think so too. I think it has symbolism. Just like Tiff had put in the comments that the different shades represent different things. And I think like the darker, the harder, the lighter, the easier, type of path. That's very interesting. And now, Udi, what do you have or had a gut feeling? Because it is so prominent throughout the book. And I know Kristen said it was anticlimactic, but for me, I think it's important.
I feel like they could have touched a little bit more on it, and or at least made it. I agree with Patty that the whole symbolism with the fire, that definitely makes sense now. I didn't even think about that. Uh, but I think it could have been more prominent maybe if they really wanted us to know about it. But I agree with Tiff too. The heart chakra is green. Thank kudos to the wife for knowing that. Um, but yeah, I do think green symbolizes growth. That's what it did for me on this one.
Yeah, I think you guys are on to something. I really do. Um, I think it would be Jessica would be next. No, Kristen. We're
Yeah, I
just
was gonna say
gonna
I'll
go
be next.
alphabetical.
Like
I don't know what that
I think I know my alphabet, but I think I'm next. Um, kindergarten. I know we talked before about the symbolism of green, like when it first came up in the book, the first part. And what I think is that I would have liked for them to have talked about what it meant in the context of the book. Like I can say what I think it meant. Everyone else can say what they think it meant. And I do agree with like a lot of what everyone's already said when we talked about before is what I think it meant, but I really would like to have known like, is it something that is specific to growth where it's like the books are always green and it's different shades, or is it different for every person, or like it didn't touch on any of that, and I would have liked to have like known a little bit more about it, I think.
Yeah, me too. I think we're supposed to figure it out for ourselves a little bit. And I was really curious if anybody caught on to it or had a deep feeling about it. If you look at color theory, like the way you surround yourself with color, all of that has symbolism. So just curious.
I think it would have been, or it would have been interesting for her to have said what it meant to her, even if it was supposed to be us drawing it, but she doesn't even necessarily like draw a conclusion about what that means.
No.
And so like she doesn't even talk about what it's like it happens, we draw our own conclusion about it, and then it's not really ever discussed much again, and she doesn't really pay attention to it after that either.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it would be Jenny who would go next. I love the plant in the background, so on point with the theme.
So I completely overlooked the whole green bit. I couldn't figure out why we were wearing green. Could have sworn the books were supposed to be beige, but somehow I missed that. But that definitely makes sense with the green being growth. So
I do find it odd that the book is blue, but all the books are green. It's a really cool point to bring up. Maybe I'm looking too much into it because I study color theory and stuff like that. But yeah. How about you, Jessica?
Is it maybe just her book of regrets that was beige?
What was that?
Was it maybe just her book of the book of regrets for her that was beige?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It was gray, I think. I think the Book of
Gray.
Regrets was gray. Yeah, the Book of Regrets, I'm pretty sure was gray or like darker. It's a darker color.
Like a shade color, like almost like a shadow. Oh, Stephanie, on page 286, she says she couldn't plant a forest inside herself, but another part it said it was about her breath. I love that. Good. See, you're right, and so was Patricia, and Jessica.
So, I'm with you on color theory as far as my brain just kept thinking of it as being soothing. But I do want to clarify because I was actually going to bring this up as well. On page 286, it says she could plant a forest inside herself. So I think, and it's in the chapter entitled The Volcano, where she's talking about how volcanoes are thought of as being destructive, but really they create a lot of life. And then she's talking about how, she has to stay there and be and tend to that wasteland. And then she says she could plant a forest inside herself. So to my way of thinking, like, that really just confirms Patty's theory that was a forest, because that was after she had kind of gone through the whole like inner transformation attitude wise. And she was like, I can plant a forest because the library just showed me how to.
I'm telling you, I knew there was some deep symbolism there. I just couldn't find it on my own. I get goosebumps. Thank you. So Emily.
Well, I think I go back to, like I said on our first meeting, that like I think it kind of references the grass is always greener on the other side. If I had lived this life, I had lived that life. But it's funny because like we're talking about color theory and like the symbolism of it, but there's a school of thought in the writing world where we basically say sometimes the curtains are just blue. Like sometimes we read into, as a writer, or as a reader, I should say, that there's the symbolism there. In this case, I think there is, but I think it's vague on purpose. I really do. Like I agree that I think that the idea that the author has is the forest and the growth and like all of those pieces, which is why that description is left vague, because for Nora, it might mean one thing. For you, it might mean something different. For me, it's something different, because what we need to realize as we're looking at what could have been and our own regrets and where we're going in life, how we apply that and what we need to look at is going to be different.
Fascinating. So, I don't know if you guys know anything about aura and like what you can even have like your aura picture taken and see what colors surround you. And I do a lot of like aura reading with a life color book. And I think that's why this really pulled into me, like maybe her aura was green. But I think I'm more on point with what you guys are saying, and that you were supposed to derive your own interpretation. How about you, Erin?
I agree with basically everybody. For the majority of the book, I did just think of it as greener grass. So I'm just gonna pluck this greener grass off the shelf and dive into it, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. None of her alternative lives are perfect. But the more that I got into the book, and especially with the fire, after last week we talked about green symbolizes rebirth. So I thought of it like the fire, how a phoenix catches on fire and it comes out new. That's what I took from it. So green means rebirth. And she basically was in this fire and she comes out a new person, and she's going to really put her all into her new life. So it's still her life, but she's going to, do things a little differently. So that's what I took from it.
I love that so much. I love the idea of the phoenix, and her being reborn and back into her root life. It's just fascinating to me. So there are a couple of things that other people asked. Jameson's not here, but we will get to that. Tiff asked, do you agree with the conclusion Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning? And I thought it was really cool. We can tag on. Jessica said, do you think just wanting to be alive is enough? Do you think that would be enough to return to your root life if you had the opportunity to see other options? And like, do you think you would grow like Nora did? And we'll start back with Erin. And I know that's a multi-parter, so if you just want to start and I can remind you, the first part was, do you agree with the conclusion that Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning?
Um, I don't know. I don't want anyone to think I'm like a selfish person, but I still felt like even in that life, she was basing her happiness on other people because she kept telling herself like, this is a good life. This is a good life. I want to stay here. But then she still went back to her root life because she saw these things that she did in her root life that affected these people, you know? So she was like, man, I mean, I don't know, that part was hard for me because I could see it both ways. She could say, like, you know, I didn't think my life had meaning, but it really did have meaning because I helped these people and I didn't even know it. But then again, I also feel like she really loved that life she was in and she wanted to stay there. She wanted her husband and she wanted her daughter and she wanted that easy life. So I don't know. I mean, that part is hard for me. I kind of feel like no matter what, she's not going to be entirely happy, but I think that's life. Nothing is perfect. So that's hard. It's hard for me to give a solid answer on that one.
I agree. I agree. It's hard for me too. In fact, these questions led me to think if this book got into a impressionable or depressed or younger mind, it could be dangerous because it's almost like the 13 Reasons Why show on Netflix. Like it almost tempts you to want to do this because you get options of better things, possibly. I think it's a little bit triggering in that way. Yeah, it is a very conflicting conversation to have. And then what Jessica said, do you think it is enough just to want to be alive? Do you think that would be enough for you to return to your root life? And even though you had other opportunities, do you think you would grow like Nora did and want to go back to your root, which is really cool? Spinning back to what Patty said about the forest, that they call the original life the root, like a tree. So anyway, go ahead.
Um, Gosh, these are these are hard questions that are really making you think. So this is you're asking me personally, do I think that I would have taken the lessons that Nora learned and went back to my original life? I don't know. I guess I really don't know because like I said before, I don't want my life to change, but there are so many things that I think like, wow, my life could be really different if I did things differently. And I could, you know, who knows? I could be rich and famous and never have to worry about a thing in my life. I could just be like, you know, traveling the world and living on a yacht and, you know, getting champagne served to me. I don't know. In that case, when I go back to my original life where I have to work 5 days a week and pay bills, maybe not. I don't know.
I think
I would like. Oh, sorry.
No, I think you bring up a good point though. I think there's a sense of imposter syndrome when she's in these other lives, you know, like she didn't earn that life. So it's like she always missed what she created on her own. I think that's the pull back, you know. It's hard to like not consider that as an option. It's really hard not to. So I agree. And I believe that would be Emily.
Okay, can you repeat the first part of the question for me,
Sure.
please? Sorry, my dogs were being a little distracting.
Oh, it's okay. Mine are always
autistic stuff.
It was Tiff's question, and she asked, and yes, good. I'm making sure that I'm getting your pronouns right. Do you agree with the conclusion Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning?
I don't know. That's kind of a hard one. I think that it's simplified a little bit in the reading, but I think there's more to it. I think that at the root, using the terminology again, at the root of it, at the core base point of it, I think yes, but I think that there are other factors to that.
I agree. It's nice to hear your point of view because you're a writer as well. Like you write and you're a reader, so it's neat to hear your take on these sort of things. The second part is from Jessica, and just wanting to be alive. Do you feel like that's enough to want to live, like, and go back to where you were, to return to your root life, especially since you saw all these other opportunities? Do you think you would grow like Nora did and want to go back?
I don't think it's enough to just want to live, because to me that kind of conveys more of a fear of the end rather than a desire to continue forward. But at the same time, I think that if I were in Nora's shoes, I would just go back to my root because, like I have said, each meeting, I choose not to live my life with regret. And so, do I look at things and say, if I had done this differently, where would my life be? I do that frequently. But what I use that for is basically, does that mean that I want to make a different choice and change the trajectory of my life now? Because it is never too late. You are never too old. The circumstances are never wrong to completely reinvent yourself and to write in a whole new book, let alone a whole new chapter. So
I love that. I love that a lot. I think it's really important to focus on that. You don't have to change a new life. You can change what you are right now at any point. And I believe that would be Jenny who is next. The first question is, do you agree with the conclusion Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning?
I think it really depends. I think in her case, since she had the ability to change things in her root life, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not necessarily the case for everyone, but I think under her specific circumstances, I'm sure.
Yeah, I absolutely. And then from Jessica's question, do you think wanting to be alive is just enough to come back here to like your root life? And would you have grown, enough to be able to come back and not still want to die, basically, through the process of what she went through?
I mean, if it were me, I would be pretty much anywhere that I had my health. And to interject in there, I have a debilitating illness. I'm mostly bedridden, so sitting up like this for an hour, hour and a half is a lot. I might have to bow out early, but yeah, I mean, I'd spend my life stuck in bed, and I would give almost anything for any kind of a life where that wasn't the case. So, if it were me personally, I'm healthy, I'll take it. But in her case, under her circumstances, I don't know. I mean, I can understand her wanting to go back, and she seemed a little torn about it. But I think that different things she was noticing where she missed out on the process. She missed out on the journey of getting from meeting her husband, and then all of a sudden she's married, has a child. She missed out that whole journey. And I like to think that going back that, she was talking about the possibility of getting in touch with him and inviting him to coffee. And so maybe she could still end up, excuse me, in the same place, but be able to enjoy the journey getting there.
Really, really getting, I'm sorry. The husband and the dog and the child was like really emotional for me to see her leave. So how about you, Jessica? Since, I'd love to hear your take on Tiff's question. Do you agree with the conclusion Laura comes to regarding what gives her life meaning? And then I'd love to hear the answer to yours as well.
Yeah, so I think I do to an extent, because the way I took it is she'd been fighting against these ties to other people and their expectations, and she was pulling on those like they were restraints without realizing that they were her safety net. Because the thing is that it wasn't about her circumstances, it was about the connections that she made. And I think that's why she went back to her root life, is because she realized like it had nothing to do with where she was at in life. It had everything to do with the fact that she wasn't feeling her connections, and seeing all of those different lives and then the way that her root life was changed made her understand that that was the meaning of life, was the connections. It was the love you give rather than what you have coming in.
And then it, like with yours, would you want to go back? Would that be something that you would have chosen to do? And do you think you would have grown?
So I want to say yeah, I would on both counts. I want to say that, but um in my current incarnation, I am not known for my ability to change and transform. I am a rigid human. So I don't know how long I would have to be beat over the head with those books before I got it. So I think I would be fighting the whole time. I mean, like I think I would be just like struggling against the current the whole time and not trying to learn what I'm supposed to be learning.
Mm-hmm. I think I relate to your answer the most. So far, I agree with Nora's take on what gives her life meaning, and the fact I feel like she wanted to identify and feel like she made those connections genuinely and go through the experiences. So, to Tiff's question, I 100% agree with her on that. But I don't know if I would have, and I said this from the beginning, I'm not sure I would have came back to the root life. I probably would have not survived the library crumbling, in my honest opinion. Given that opportunity, I probably at some point would have just said, I don't want any more books. I'm done. I can't take any more pain. I know me in that way. So it is nice to know that I'm not the only one here that feels that way. So thank you for being so vulnerable and always so authentic with what you have to say. So next would be Kristen.
Can you repeat the questions again?
Yeah, tips was you agree with the conclusion Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning.
Yes. And I think that I've seen that parallel in my life about connections going from not having really deep, authentic connections to having those in my life now. And one thing that I was listening to everybody that struck me is that she drew conclusions in her root life about like why Izzy was upset with her or why her brother was upset with her. But in one of the lives, didn't she ask him if he was upset? He was just going through his own stuff. And I think that that is a missed opportunity that we often, I know I talk this up, that I often have is you make assumptions about why people are upset and they impact your relationship. It changes your connections with people instead of just being able to have a conversation and finding out like not everything's about me, you know? And so like being able to like talk about it and then that builds your connections and that would make her root life worth being involved in, you know? So I would love to see if like she was able to go back and like have those conversations with like Izzy and have conversations with her brother and stuff like that to figure out like what relationship repair would look like to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what you said about her ability to connect with people, it was extremely limited. She was isolating herself a lot. And I think that the connections she made in the other lives is what brought her back to her root one. So she had a chance to connect with them. I think you're spot on with that. And then Jessica asked, do you think wanting to be alive is enough? And do you think that you would be able to return to your root life if you had the opportunity to see those other options? I'm super curious about this about you because you had said from the very beginning, you would have liked to just come into a whole new life with new parents. Like you're not even sure you'd want to be this Kristen. So it's interesting to me what your answer would be. And do you think you would grow and be able to come back here?
I think, do I think that being wanting to live is enough? I think that the idea of wanting to live being enough is appealing, but I do not think that that's reality. I think that there's a lot more. So I think I would love to be able to say that that should be enough, and that that's just enough to pull me up to my bootstraps and make me want to face every single day and go back to my root life. But I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily enough. And as far as I do see the value in the journey, but at the same time, and I can see the lessons in that. But at the same time, if I am this age and I've already had a lot of lessons and I'm given the opportunity to go into another life that I really, really like, and it gives me a lot of the stuff and checks most of the boxes, I'm cool with making future memories and not thinking about all the stuff that I didn't have before when I've had all of these experiences outside of this new life. I'd be cool with that, especially since she's starting to gain those things. She's not losing, so she's really starting to gain that stuff, and I'd be fine with, like, I'm cool with that. I would be perfectly fine staying in that life that she had left.
There's a danger in that. There is, in reading this book, like I said, if it's gotten to the wrong hands, it's tempting to take that journey to see if that's what happens on the other side. And then that would be, guys, help me out. Who goes next? Would that be
Udi, I think.
Udi? Yeah.
So I think the first question was about her life, right?
Do you agree with the conclusion Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning?
Yeah, because she is definitely I took it as a people pleaser. And the fact that she went back to her root life, that definitely made sense, because now she can go back and change that. She can get that relationship she wants. And I do agree that she should have, because she always felt like she was an imposter in all those lives. Yeah, she gains the memories as she was going, but she still felt like, I have this scar, but I didn't actually give birth. And it did break my heart when she left. I thought for sure she was gonna stay because she was so happy. Everything was happy, and she was just like, silly mommy, silly mommy. I really thought she was gonna stay.
Me too. It hit me right in the feels.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, please. But like she kept telling herself they're gonna be okay. It'll be
Yeah.
okay.
She would be the other Nora would come back, and it would just be like, oh, what was I doing? Oh, haha, let's just go.
Do you think that with Jessica's question, do you think that wanting to be alive is enough? And do you think you would be able to return back to your root life and grown and want to do that, again with the new knowledge that you have?
Honestly, I would probably pick the good life. Because you can change once you're in that life. You can take the knowledge of what you've learned and change it to your benefit. I would be selfish, 100%.
Yeah, I will elaborate more on that, but when we do our next question. But I'm right there with you. Usually we're pretty
right.
So I just learned, guys, you're going to be so happy. I can move the boxes around, so put you all in alphabetical order.
Oh, you're so cute.
So Patty goes next.
Okay, so the first thing is, do you agree with what Nora gives Nora's life meaning? And this actually reminds me of a movie that I watched a long time ago during the pandemic. It was called Soul, and it was on Disney. And it was about finding your purpose and how everyone has a meaning of life. And then you find out that maybe you don't. And maybe you're not amazing at everything. Maybe you're not an author or an artist, or maybe you're not anything like what you thought you'd be, but you still are, and you're still valid. And it reminds me a lot of this, because she goes back to a life where she is just Nora. She's not a glaciologist. She's not a singer. She's not a mother, and she's just someone who has a dead cat and helps her neighbor with the groceries, or did, and helped Leo before he stopped too. And I always struggled, like, thinking, like, who am I going to be? What am I going to be? And I'm still struggling with it to this day. I'm always always going to probably struggle with. But maybe just being me is okay. And maybe just being Nora is okay. Now, would I go back to the original life? So Molly really reminded me of my daughter. Like as soon as I was reading it, I'm like, this is Eleanor. Like, and it broke my heart that she left. But I understand why she did it, because she has this knowledge of what and how beautiful her life can be. She can have Molly. And just because it might be a different variation of Molly, it could be better. Of course, it could be worse. Things could go wrong. But in the life that she was in with Molly, where Leo was a criminal, what if Leo, we don't know, he could have hurt Molly. You know what I mean? So I would have gone back knowing that the possibility of that happiness is there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I that's a really cool perspective, and not one I was 100% expecting to hear from you right now. So thank you. And I also love the moon phases behind you. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. Stephanie, so on Tiff's question, do you agree with the conclusion that Nora comes to regarding what gives her life meaning?
Yeah, I think I do. Like everybody else is saying, everybody is interconnected. It's all about the connections that we make. She had to get hit over the head so hard in order to see that, but she eventually came to that conclusion. So I'm actually proud of her for doing that. And my heart broke too when she left that life, but like everybody else is saying, she did take those lessons back and knows how to possibly get the life that she wanted to stay in.
Right. Yeah.
And then,
and do you think being alive, wanting to be alive is enough? And would you have gone back, had you had the opportunity to see like what everything else was like, especially like if it were better, would you want to return to your root life?
I mean, I'm like Jenny, I have a lot of pain and health issues, and if I could change that, I would, I think, because it's hard. But then again, I'm also thinking, if I change one thing, it's gonna change everything, and I don't want to lose everything that I have in this life, because I've come so far. I've scraped, I've fought. I don't want to give that up. So I probably would go back to my root life, just take the lessons that I learned.
I'm shocked by your answer too, but I just want to commend you for your growth. I've seen you grow over the last 2 years, like just monumentally. But with the pain that you have and that you struggle with daily, I expected maybe you to want to be in a pain-free life. So, and with RA, you don't know what that holds, but I think it's really cool and really brave that you would want to come back. Tabitha, how about you?
So I was kind of disappointed that she went back to her root life.
Mhm.
I felt like she almost did it out of obligation. Like, I have to accept this. I have to want my root life. And I understand that she could, take back what she's learned, with growing and everything. Yeah, baby. But I also felt like she's not going to rewind the clock. So, like, if she had that daughter and she was this age, like, is she going to be able to have I don't know, she was already in that life and she was happy. So, like, even if you have another child, is it going to be the same one? Is it going to be the same age that you met your husband? Like, you're going to change things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not so it's not going to be the same kids. It's I don't know. So I was like, just stay where you're already happy, and part of it is the journey. But like, you can make more journeys from this point. I felt like, so like, this is good. Stay in this and make more memories. And I have psoriatic arthritis myself. I'm sitting here with my feet throbbing, plantar fasciitis from work. And like I have 4 kids. I love all my kids. But it would be hard to want to go back to daily pain. And I know what you're saying, like you don't want to lose what you have that you love. But it's also hard to not be able to walk every day. And I have to work a full-time job. I have to support my kids. So I don't know. That's really hard. But at the same time, I've had suicidal ideation. I used to cut, and I'm only alive because of my kids. I've stayed alive for other people, for my mom, for my kids. So it is enough to go back because I'm not dead because of them, and I'm in a better place. So they brought me through. So it was I was almost angry with her for going back. I'm like, what are you doing? You're in a good spot.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so honest about your pain. You're among some friends here that struggle with that too, so you're not alone. And I'm sure you'll be able to find out more as we go along. But yeah, I can empathize with that a lot. How about you, Tiff? Starting with your question, do you agree with Nora?
I think so. I kind of agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I found it interesting that like when she was in that life where she was really happy, she said I haven't earned this life. Like she used the word earned, which I thought was kind of a shift in her thinking, like there where she was like, I don't know, it felt like through the first part of the book, she was very much like, oh my gosh, everything in my life sucks. It's awful. Nothing will go right, And then she goes through all these things and it's like she can see all these different things she could be or was or will be. And I think that gets that shift to her. And then that final life is she's like, but I haven't earned this. And so, I agree with her reasoning and I agree with her thought process there. I think that if I personally was given a glimpse at like all of the things that I could be or, how I could live my life, like it would absolutely 100% change my perception in my current life. So I probably would come back to my root life if I had all of that knowledge. Just knowing that, hey, it is a possibility. And like I always go back to like the whole, if you can see it, you can be it. And so like she has seen these things, whereas before I think she just was so down on herself that she couldn't see that there were all these possibilities for her, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Do we know how old Nora is? Did they say she in her 20s? I'm assuming
I
she's
want to say she was like in her 30s.
35.
30. Yes, you're right.
35, right? I
Right.
thought so.
Okay. That also, I think age has a lot to do with it too, because there are some opportunities that aren't possible past certain ages. So yeah, definitely at that age, I can fully get on board with that. Victoria, how about you? I'm dying to know. Do you agree with, the conclusion that she came to about what gave her life meaning?
Um, so personally, I think I do. And I really thought about this for a long time because I just thought the premise near the end of the book, I was just like, wow, this is interesting. And then when you think about the extra layers of all the like other Noras that are like waiting in the wings, like ready to like step into that like life, my brain exploded when it came to that. Just thinking of all the possibilities. But I think like the connection with others and like appreciating like even the smallest and most mundane of joys versus like going for the gold and all of the things that people want for you and like fitting into the molds that people want for you and people have like lay out for you. I think that, while it did take her 8 hours and 50 minutes in audiobook time to come to this conclusion. It also is kind of like indicative of, or like reminiscent of, life patterns in general, right? Like some lessons we learn very quickly and like move on, whereas other lessons we come up against and come up against and come up against and come up against, and it feels like we have endless learning that we take from that. So yeah, I think that I do agree with her purpose and like how that all kind of like tied in for her. And that said, I do agree with like why she like that, like, you know, just her going back to her old life. Like if I could learn a lifetime of lessons and then apply them to my life right now, when I know that I'm like halfway through or whatever, like it would be kind of cool to not have to come up against and up against and up against some lessons. But gosh, I did get lost in like the world with Ash and with Molly, and it was like really heartbreaking for her to like feel the library like looming and like know its presence, and like to know that she knows it is a bad sign. So yeah, that part was definitely heartbreaking. I was like, okay, I was like really like, I think I like this little life, like settling into it, and then like, yeah, wrenched away. So yeah, but I do agree that like if I had all this knowledge, I would probably apply it as soon as I can. And I do agree with the fact that like what Emily said, it's never too late, right? Like you're never too old. Like I literally just saw on TikTok the other day, like someone like a 40-year-old woman who like started a business 2 years ago, and now she's like making millions. Like and you know, maybe making millions isn't always the goal for everybody, but just like the fact that you could change your life at any given moment has always been like something that's like super important to me as a Scorpio stellium. I like reserve the right to fucking transform at any time. So pardon my language, but like truly, like I reserve the right to just be a different person and show up differently. So I think that if I could apply a bunch of lessons, that would be cool. But I also liked how she was transformed, I guess, through all the different processes.
I think you would make a full evolution if you were given the opportunity, knowing you and how you learn and change so often with everything that you take on. I've seen you do it since we very first met. I think that if you went through this process, you would come back like this brand new individual, almost able to embrace a whole new life as the same person, just knowing you and your core self. So the next part of this, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but it's kind of a two-parter as well. It was my original question that I got inspired from Reese Witherspoon's book club that did this book, was to suspend your logical mind and your attachment to your life that you have right now, if you can, which is almost impossible, because you almost feel guilty, letting go of what's here now. But if you could let go of that, what choice would you go back and do differently? And then Jameson asked, there were several different lives that they like kind of skip over real fast, of all the things that she did and all her other lives. If there were a couple that you would have saw yourself doing. I think it kind of just to get to know you as a person better. Like we learned that she's an amazing musician. She loves the glacier studies. She was a good mom. Like we learn these things about her. I think that kind of was like Jameson's goal, to learn a little bit more about each other in that way. And then we would start back with Victoria. So if you would like either one of those or both.
So sorry, I'll answer both of them. The different lives ones, I'm going to answer first because I had written down notes on that, especially just like thinking about all the different things she did, like a casual swimmer, a concert pianist, an Oxford lecturer, a travel vlogger. I think it'd be super cool to be a travel vlogger and like feel no shame in like pulling out a camera and like videoing myself in a public place, like around people. Like I'm working on that still like it sends me into a shame spiral, which is wild because I have to like market myself on social media for my like side hustle. So it's a whole thing for me. But I think like I would choose something like that so that I felt like you know what I mean? I could bring that into this life and like take that shame-free experience and go with it. And then remind me of the first question again, just real briefly.
Oh, no problem. So it was if you could suspend your attachment to the life that you have now, is there a specific choice that you can think of, like a big pivotal choice that you would want to go back and do differently?
I would say that I like quit movement-based things as a child based on the ideas and the impressions of others. Like I, growing up poor, like I definitely like had a financial pressure that was like also like layered on top of it that, like I could tell that even though I was successful and had a lot of fun in some of the activities I did, like ballet and baton were the main ones. It was like financially draining and taxing on my parents. So it was like, cool, I get like, you know what I mean? I get to compete, but my parents, I hear them like grumbling at night about like my costumes and my, you know what I mean? Like, and so like I would go back and I don't know, somehow like continue to just like press on with that because not only was there like the financial thing, but it was also like, okay, you hit puberty, you don't have the body shape that we believe a ballerina should have. Like you're way too hippie, like way too curvy, like you really shouldn't dance anymore. And so just like I think that like that inherent voice has been in my head all of my life. And I've not untangled the like sat and untangled the damage that that voice has done until the past year in my yoga teacher training and like moving through my certification. And like if I could go back and like literally, I don't know, slap the shit out of these people, like I'm not sure I would, that'd be cool. Just to be like, this is a child you're talking about, like in front of, like this is an impressionable sponge of a human. This is someone who is learning what they live. This is you know what I mean? So I think it would be like way back in childhood and just like shirking off those kind of like inner like voice like outer voices that became inner voices because I think I missed out on a lot of like life and like putting myself out there because I felt very hard like the impressions of others and like what they feel like a fat how they feel like a fat person should be showing up basically.
There's a really cool thing going around on Facebook that I shared about the Olympian that says, that she has a high BMI, but that she's the one in the Olympics, like not anybody else. And I think that really speaks volumes. Like you should print that quote out and like put it somewhere that you can constantly see to remind yourself, like so that I know you're untangling it, but that is a constant reminder. Like look, she's like an Olympian and she's a thick, curvy person. I think we all have the ability to do it despite what body size we have. I don't think that should dictate how strong we are or what we're capable of. Tiff, how about you? Either one or both. And you just let me know if you need prompting.
Yeah, so the the first part of the question that was like if there was one thing you could like change, right? Um I don't know about change, like I go back and forth on this one and I kind of mentioned it last week that I wish I had like started my journey sooner of like healing and getting better. Um just because I feel like that affected so much in my life. Like I dropped out of school. I lost a lot of really strong friendships. I, went through a lot of things like just that could have been prevented. I think not, maybe not prevented, but maybe the journey would have been different had I started. But then I'm like, is that really a decision, regret? Because I don't know how much of me would have recognized that I needed that at that time. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of what I go back to thinking about. But like if it were a regret specifically that I know it would have been, I would not have dropped out of college. Um I got like halfway through and I really struggled through it due to a lot of like mental illness types of things too. But I just feel like that now I'm trying to kind of figure that out in my mid 30s. And it's a lot harder than it was when I was in my early 20s to try to figure out. And then as far as like different lives that I potentially could see myself having, I always come back to like, I feel like I could be like a teacher of some sort. There's probably a life somewhere where I am a worldwide motivational speaker. There's probably a life where I am a musician. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that I think about when I think about different lives.
That's so cool. I want to tell you, just to give you a little bit of insight on the whole school thing. So I have like 6 degrees. They're all like associate degrees, though, because I can't decide what I'm doing ever. And I don't use any of them. But I do feel like had I not gotten those, I don't think I would be able to make the right decision going forward. So I think even if you like make a choice and you just start, if it's wrong, you can always build off of it later. But that's really, really cool. And I appreciate you sharing. Tabitha, how about you? Did you have any? I know you didn't get much time with this question, but is there a life that you, or something that you would have chosen to just change your life? Can you think of one pivotal moment?
Um, yeah, so I am product of domestic violence. And if that's a trigger for anybody, I don't have to talk about it. Um, but grew up with really, really bad whole dad's side of the family. Pretty much all the men, you just drag your wife in a room and take care of her. So that's what I grew up seeing. Dad almost killed my mother several times. So I grew up with the value of uh, I, I was beat out of my mother's stomach. I was born 7 weeks early because my father did that. So I didn't feel value because if the one that was your father didn't value you, who else is going to value you? Um, so I married the first guy that showed me any type of attention. And that's been like my biggest regret. But that's hard too because I have 2 boys that are 17, 16. One has autism, one has learning disabilities, and it's very hard to be a single parent. Are they real, mommy? Yes. It's really hard to be a single parent with your own emotional issues at 24. And I internalize everything. And I think that's one reason like I'm overweight because I overeat and you handle your emotions. Yes, baby. And I have a great mom. But I don't regret my children, but I regret the emotional and verbal abusive relationship I got into. I married a guy that was like almost 10 years older than me. And I thought it's not abuse because he doesn't hit me. And it's not as bad as what my mom went through. So I regret marrying him, but if I change that, it changes all of your life. So it's really hard to like battle, because I'd give my life for my kids. But also if your life changes, you wouldn't know it. You know what I mean? So it's like you wouldn't know what you have to miss if you don't know it. And I had a scholarship to Johnson and Wales, which is a pretty prestigious culinary school. And I met him and he didn't want me to go that far. So I ended up going to Solomon University, which is in Kentucky, which is like a Brown Mackey. It's not as recognized. It's more of like a vocational. So I gave up my scholarship and followed him. And that's my advice to young people all the time. Like, don't follow a love interest, make your own way. And so I wish I could just be the chef that I wanted to originally be. But at the same time, I work at a group home for adults with developmental disabilities. Wait, baby. Wait. So I work with adults that have autism and so life was crappy, but I wouldn't be the compassionate person that I am had I not gone through it. So that's mine.
A couple things I wanted to tell you when you said it wasn't as bad for me as it was for my mom. what you go through emotionally isn't on a gauge level that can be equalized. So you never want to negate your own pain of what you went through because somebody else went through something worse. You can never gauge how they take it versus what you felt. So it could be equal or it could be different. I just want you to know that just because they may have seemed to have had it harder doesn't mean that you didn't feel it harder. And then the other thing is, have you ever read The Body Keeps the Score?
Read what?
Read the book The Body Keeps the Score?
No.
Type it in the chat. I really recommend it for you. And the other question was, do you see any lives that you would have been doing, like Jameson had asked, like, is there anything about your core personality that you would have been doing had you been able to go through and see all those different lives and choose them?
So, like I said, I would want to go back to go to Johnson and Wales and see the culinary world that I would have had, which I do try to tie in now. So we do what's called hubless at my work, which is day centers without the walls. We make the outings. We take our clients person-centered planning. We help them set up things that they want to do. And my big thing is, like, I help teach them how to cook. So I try to tie in my interests to help them. If it's just, today they learned how to turn the oven on, that's awesome for me. And thank you. I appreciate, like, you saying all feelings are valid and everything. And I feel that now. I just didn't feel it then. Like, my sister was going through a horrible divorce because her husband was a drug addict, and my mom had her abuse situations, and I'm like, mine's not that bad. He just yells at me. He just takes my car keys and doesn't let me leave the house. That's not bad. But he called my.
It wants to
What's that?
Our brain does that. Wants to minimize our pain and make it small. That's easier for us to cope with. But it also invalidates what you went through, and it makes you feel guilty for being the way that you are because you negate your own pain. And Patty said, The Body Keeps the Score does need to come with a little bit of a trigger warning. It's a really big book. It's really difficult to read. It is on Libby, and just be patient with yourself. But I do think with everything that you said, it could really help you with some healing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, like, when you said that she lived for other people and stuff, like, I kept making the best out of a bad situation until my son, who has autism, my ex hit him so hard he left a handprint on his back to spank him because he was being physically aggressive. And he was nonverbal. And I'm like, that teaches him nothing. Like, he got angry and hit, so you got angry and hit. And you left a handprint on my child. And he called him Iggy, which is short for ignorant. And that was the day that I was like, okay, it's okay if it happens to me. It's not okay if it happens to him. I have to go. And I went.
It's not okay if it happens.
And now life is much better.
But you found a support place that people have experienced things like this. So I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you.
For being so vulnerable and open. How about you, Stephanie? Yes, Emily, you're right. I'm glad she found the strength to leave. It's so hard to get out of. So thank you for letting us know and giving other people
Thank you.
who are watching this that it is possible to get away. And then Stephanie, we'll go on to you. And I wanted to know, what is one choice that you would do different that could change the whole course of your life? And then what other lives do you think you would have seen yourself living?
Okay, so I think I went back and forth on this one, but I really think the thing that I would go back and change would be not drop out of college because of my health. But it was a really hard time because my gastroparesis was really bad. I had a J tube in, and I wasn't getting the correct nutrition, so I had to drop out. It was just too much on me. And I think that I would have, instead of going into environmental chemistry and occupational hygiene and safety, environmental health sciences, I think I probably would have just went into nursing instead. My mom always told me, because she was a nurse, she's like, you're sick, you can't do the runaround like you need to. And I really shouldn't have listened to that. I should have just believed in myself. But So that's the main moment I think I would have chosen to change, is to stay in school, and I'm trying to get back, and that is harder than hell to do when you have a full-time job and you have health issues and you're trying to pay down all your bills. So that's really hard. And I think that I would see myself as a nurse in one life. I could see myself being an astronaut, a pilot, something like that, because before I ended up getting sick, I wanted to be an astronaut. I'd always loved space, and I was going to go into the Air Force, become a fighter pilot, but you know, life has its own way of getting you into something different. So that's what I would have done, I think.
I just want to say I remember when you were severely ill, and there's no way anybody could have continued maintaining school in that state. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. There's just no way. It was just impossible. But there's always, you can always, I know you want to go back for nursing, and as hard as that is, hopefully we can find a way. I believe you would be an amazing nurse. How about you, Patty?
Okay, so this one's kind of dumb, but I thought about it a lot, and it goes back to actually myself because I'm trying to not talk bad about myself. So it's not dumb. It's not as deep as anyone else's, but like I kind of go back to like, what are my skills? And I kind of keep ending up in these weird jobs where I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? Who fucking put me here? Because it wasn't me. But I kind of wish I would have gone to a career center in high school. You know what I mean? Like, and gotten like a cause license or something, maybe culinary, something, because right now, and it's not impossible in my life, but it's hard to fathom being a mom, working, and going to a career center. It feels almost impossible. So I think that is like, because again, I thought about like, all these different things, like my regrets, but I haven't really. Yeah, I think that's pretty much. I wish I would have done that, or maybe instead of being a little hood rat in high school, maybe I would have got myself ready for college, but I didn't. And then for like my other lives now, I could see myself being an author, or maybe a school counselor, or maybe even just selling feet pics. I don't know. Just I have to work hard, and just live the good life. But yeah, I think I don't know. I keep on getting drawn back to like being a school counselor. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. As someone who knows you and the way that we met, I was introduced to you as my supervisor, and you're just like the coolest supervisor ever. And
Thanks.
I just knew like you were this amazing human, but we were at a place that we worked together at, and it was hard to have that connection. And I was, as much as I hate that you and Aaron and Victoria and I all lost these incredible jobs that we all loved and they became friends, but at least now we all can have personal relationships outside of it. And I feel like, you're capable of so much. You have the world is your oyster, in my opinion. Like you have so much ahead of you. And I know being a mom and you're such an amazing mom, it has to be so hard. You probably felt pulled and guilty. But you really can do a lot of things. So
thank you,
how
Billy.
about you, Udi? I'm so curious because I don't know this side of you. So I'd like to know more about what your big moment choice would have been, and then also what lives you think you would have seen yourself doing.
Gotcha. I definitely wouldn't have gotten married as young as I did and to who I did, because that took a big chunk of my life. It was like 15 years almost. It was a high school sweetheart. Yeah. Um, yeah, it ended very badly. And I dropped out of school. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of family, and I would just like to get that whole part back. And the guy I'm with now, I knew him back in high school as well. So maybe I would have, taken a little bit of an interest in him earlier, because of how amazing our relationship. That's the one thing I don't want to change in my life is him, because he is like totally my counter person. And I would have continued going to nursing school and got through it before COVID hit, because once COVID hit, I was going to go back to nursing school, and I was in the medical field, and I lost my job last year, and it's hard. And so I would have definitely changed that. Or, probably instead of nursing, I wanted to do something with animals, vet. I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid. I would always, you know, save animals. I lived on a farm. We didn't raise like any livestock or anything like that, but we always had dogs. We always had cats. We had roosters. We had chickens. We had everything you could imagine, except horses. My dad would not let us get horses or cows or anything like that because they brought flies. Yeah. But we grew almonds and stuff like that. So one of my lives, I'm basing like the second question off of my root life per se. So a farmer could be one, learning how to farm. I don't know how to do that. Like my dad was like, "No, I ain't gonna teach you that shit now." Spelling bee champ. I was really good at spelling. Saxophone. I played saxophone for years. I haven't touched any musical instrument. I actually play multiple musical instruments. Saxophone is just one of them. I was in band in elementary school all the way up till high school when I had a really bad teacher for band. He kind of ruined it for me. Opera. I love singing. Medical, anything medical wise, brain surgeon. I love my girlfriend that recently passed away. She had surgery, and I got to see her liver and I see pictures. So I love anything like brains, like brains. That would be cool. Acting in theater, I did a little bit of that. I would like to go for that, or a librarian. I was in JROTC in high school, so I could have gone into military. I really loved the show Bones, so forensic anthropologist or anthropology, psychologist. I was really good at track, so long jump and relay races. Maybe I could have gone to the Olympics. And I would also do gymnastics as a kid. Maybe I could have done that. And also dog walker. I could still do that. So that's what I got.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing. Like I've learned so much about you that I didn't know. And I'm fascinated now. So thank
Thank you.
you
Yeah,
for
nurse practitioner was my number one goal. Have my own office and stuff, but that COVID really fucked everything up, man.
I worked at Children's in the Columbus Health Department, and 10 years at the health department and 6 years at Children's when COVID hit, and babies were dying. And my supervisor told me I would get used to it. You would get numb to it, and I thought, I can't do this. I cannot get used to this. I got to go. And I'm so glad I did, because I left and I started a job where I work from home, and I met all these beautiful people that are in this group. And Erin's become like such a pivotal part of my healing and my life and who I am as a person. I don't want to cry, but it's like, that COVID really threw everything for a loop. And I think we're all still recovering from it. So thank you for sharing.
I
Kristen,
appreciate you guys in my safe space. I do. Sorry. Thank you.
So is there a big choice that you would go back and change? And if you could see other lives, what would those be?
I think that the first part is a really hard question for me, because I can think back and be like, oh, if I would have not wanted to do this, or would have not wanted to do that. But given my life, I go back to, there's no way that things could have played out any differently. Like, I can't see myself having made a different choice unless I went way back to being born to different parents, or being like removed from my mom way before I was, or just something like that. Someone interceding or like intervening much earlier than what they did or whatever. Because every decision that I would be like, oh, I wouldn't have dated my first serious boyfriend when I went to college. I wouldn't have gotten married the 2 times. All of those things are things I wouldn't have done. But in this life, in these conditions, I still would have done something very similar regardless. I don't foresee that having changed. If the only thing I think I probably would, if I could at all not have dated that guy when I first went to college, who was older than me, that's the only thing. I don't think that would have changed. I don't think anything else. I think I probably would have still made that decision, but if I could do that one over again, I would, because what it robbed me of is I used him as like a shield to not have to immerse myself in being away from home and being at college. So that took a lot of opportunities away from me, that because I didn't get to immerse myself and stay like, as I would go to his place every weekend, and I just wasn't like really doing what college stuff really should be doing. And I think then I didn't have the connections and stuff that I would have had otherwise, because of that relationship. And as far as, well, I did cuddle parties for a while. I was a certified cuddle party facilitator. Didn't really make a lot of money, but you can then take and create, like, when the people who started cuddle parties actually now do a whole bunch of sex, geek trainings and stuff across the world. So I think that would be kind of cool to do. They design like a whole bunch of stuff. And there's tons of people that would do cuddle parties too. So I guess that would be kind of cool. I always thought that would be cool to, like, definitely be like a lawyer. When I was growing up, I would go. My mom worked in a courthouse, and so I would go into the courtrooms and stuff and play, on the bench, on the judge's bench, and I would like hear cases and myself and just play around and stuff. And I also think it would be cool to. It would have been cool to go into like behavioral science, like the BAU, like the FBI, like working for like behavioral science unit. I think that would be like CSI type stuff that they could do.
Well, totally not. I feel like I know more about you too. Totally not what I was expecting. I was waiting for like skydive instructor, queen of karate, like
I've only been within the past 2 years. So
you're doing it, like you're one of those people that I feel like, I don't know. It's almost like you started over, like you got a second chance. If you're making those choices now, like that's what you're very inspiring for the possibility of that happening. In fact, like I kind of try to have to constantly remind myself and watch you, like this could be you too, Billy. Like if you have the gastric bypass and you make this decision and get over your fear, you could go and make these awesome choices that Kristen's making. So like it's cool to hear what you chose, because it's so different than what you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jenny? I know you didn't have a whole long time to prepare, but is there a pivotal moment in your life that you would go back and change?
I thought it was interesting that so many of you were talking about career changes, and like for me personally, it's not at all about career. It's about the basis of how you want to live your life. And during the years that I was able to work full time, which I started working when I was 14. I last worked full time when I was 30. But it was constantly spinning my wheels to try and earn enough to get by. And okay, this job I'm not earning enough, so I'll get a second job. Now I'll get a third job. And if I could go back, there are so many things that I was just completely ignorant of, that I could have made different choices as far if I knew, which I didn't. Of work, that whole adage of working smarter, not harder, because I had been raised to believe you just had to keep working harder, and that wasn't cutting it. And as a result, I spent those years literally just working and not doing a whole lot else. And if I could change that, I would want to look at things differently. Like, okay, I could utilize so many different potential skills and find ways of valuing myself more as far as like what I earned, not even necessarily working for someone else, but working for myself, and have so much more free time to, go spend time in nature, go hiking, travel, see different places that, I always thought I would do. Oh, once I'm better set financially, I'll go here, or I'll, go visit this country or that country, or, like just all these ideas of things that I thought I would eventually do, when I was significantly older or significantly more financially stable. I could have had that at a younger age. I just didn't realize it. So that, definitely, I wish I, would love to have that different. As far as like making different choices, that's a big part of it, but I didn't know any better. Because again, it's really just how I was raised, and even today, it's really how society teaches people. Even if it's not just from your parents, it's from most people around you. Um, but I'm seeing a lot more young people, like especially with social media and everything, right? I'm seeing so many young people who are like deciding to cut the thread, and they go off after college and they hike the Appalachian Trail for 6 months, or they get a van and kit it out to live in and travel the country and work remotely living in a van. Just so many cool things that young people are doing nowadays. And yeah, the working remotely wasn't a possibility, when I was that age, but there were other things, there's certainly plenty of things that could have been different. But as far as like a specific regret, I think a lot of it really were more decisions that were made for me are the biggest ones, things that I didn't have a choice in the matter, but I have a whole string of them of my own from my adult years as well. And I think the absolute biggest one was moving in with and ultimately marrying my second husband. It was like right after I moved in with him is when my health started going downhill more. And it was just like I didn't make the connection at all at the time, but now I look back and I think there was just so much stress with him that it just pushed me further and further into getting sick. So I would love to change that. But if I could change other people's decisions, I would have changed so many of the decisions my parents forced on me. So there's that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for telling us such a personal part of yourself, especially since this is your first meeting with us. So I appreciate that so much. Your vulnerability is beautiful. How about you, Jessica? I think I know your answers, but I'm really curious because I thought I knew everybody else's too. So, if you could make one big pivotal different decision, we'll start there.
That's a really hard one. The and I thought about this a lot today. So the really big thing that like really sticks out in my mind is nothing that I had any control over. Halfway through my sophomore year of high school, my parents moved me from suburban Chicago to rural Indiana. Did not make a happy teenager, but it also ripped me out of a town where I had been on a really good track. I had planned my life out, so I would have graduated high school at the beginning of midway through my junior year, with both a high school diploma and an associate's degree. I was super driven, but again, I had no control over that, so I can't fix that. So what I would do that I had control over is I wouldn't marry my kid's dad. I married my kid's dad to punish myself. 10 years of therapy it took to get to there, but I realize now that I literally married my ex-husband as a direct response of my fiance killing themselves and my thinking I did not deserve anything other than misery. because I felt like I caused that. Would I have my kids? No. But I wouldn't miss them either if I didn't make that decision and it never happened. It breaks my heart to say that because I love my kids, but my ex-husband destroyed every tiny bit of self-esteem I had. He physically abused me. He knocked 4 teeth loose of my mouth, left scar tissue, held me at gunpoint. It's a mess. And now he ignores his kids. So I picked a winner. As far as all the different little lives I would lead, though, that's a fun topic. So it's actually kind of really fun for me because my mom just brought me something. My mom brought me a whole bunch of stuff her last trip, but one of them was this book that is a book that I wrote. I believe 1988. So what was I, like 9? But we had the Young Authors Contest in our school systems, and they always had us write a little story and you bound it up. And it's like a 4-page story. But the topic was the year 2000. And the life I have now is absolutely not what I imagined for myself. I imagined a much smaller, much quieter life in education, specifically educating young ladies. And that's really cute, but it was a direct response of like reading Little House on the Prairie. So like that was like a really like it was a really interesting thing that my mom brought me, but there's like 100 things I could have done. And I'd love to see like the life where I'm an oceanographer. I have horrible thalassophobia. I really don't know what I thought I was going to do with that, but I was willing to give it a go. I'm obsessed with sharks. I think they're really cool. So then there's the life where I took the job I was offered in Canada, working as an interpreter at a hotel. I don't any longer, but I used to be fluent in French. There's the life where I'm a concert pianist. There's life where I'm a concert violinist. There's the life where I continued with Scottish tenor drum and kept it up and continued playing with a Scottish bagpipe band. And then there's the life where I'm in France because I had the opportunity to be an exchange student and I turned it down. And there's the life where I sing professionally and I didn't ruin my voice and I didn't destroy my lung capacity. And then there's life where I'm a criminal defense attorney because that's when I planned my life out and had it so in a row. That was my want, is I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney so that I could eventually work for the FBI because I wanted to be a profiler. And then I had somebody at a career fair shit on that dream by telling me that at 4'11 I would never be hired for field work. And I was like, okay, I would love to see how that turned out because I think I'd be great at it. So yeah, that's all the hundreds of different little lives and just a little tiny sampling of them.
I have to ask. I'm so sorry. I know it's 9:30. I love learning this stuff about you guys. Why do you feel? I knew the husband was going to totally be the regret. I was spot on about that. However, I did not know, and I'm so sorry I missed this because it's a connection that we both have. Your partner before had taken their life. Why did you take guilt for that?
So my partner and I, my ex-fiance at this point, I guess, because he's dead, we met drinking. I've had an interesting relationship with alcohol my whole life. He was an alcoholic. Evidently, during a drinking binge, he broke into his former home with his ex-wife and scolded the young lady who was currently living there. and scared her. And then he left. He got arrested about a month after he and I met. We got pulled over after a party. He got pulled over for drunk driving, and his print came up to this assault. They told him he raped this young lady. He did not. He came to me and did the right thing and told me the police just said I raped a young lady. And my response was to vomit and break up with him. Because I don't broker that in my life. And I assumed if the police told him that was true. I didn't take any phone calls from him for like 3 days. And then the next thing that I know, his best friend called me and said, "Do you still have a key?" And so I know now it was not my fault. And it was a perfectly reasonable response to an exceedingly upsetting piece of information. But at the time I was 27. No, I was a little younger than that. I was like 25. And yeah, that was my response, was to be done with it. So.
Oh, okay, well, thank you so much for clarifying. We have something very similar in common. Emily, I'm curious about yours. Is there something that you would have chosen different?
Such a hard question. So like a lot of you, I had an abusive ex-husband. I got married when I was 18. I was divorced by the time I was 24 with 2 kids under the age of 5. Both my kids are ADHD and one's autistic. I'm both, so there you go. But he was really emotionally and verbally abusive to me and physically abusive to my children. But marrying him put me in Japan, where I taught English for several years. So I wouldn't have had that experience. But I'm a world traveler. It's what I do. So I think that would probably be the thing that I would have changed. I started college when I was 14, because I graduated high school when I was 14. I was a smart kid. It's not all it's cut out to be. I would have finished school a lot earlier. I ended up not graduating until I was 37. So I was in college on and off for 22 years before I finally finished my bachelor's degree, which is in English and creative writing, by the way. So I think that would be the pivotal thing I probably would have changed. I probably wouldn't have married my ex. Not at 18.
What about the different lives?
Oh, I would have had so many different lives. So everything, it's where you go, with the ADHD and the autism. Everything I've ever had an interest in, I've always tried. So I was born completely and totally tone deaf, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket if you handed it to me. But my dream was to be a singer. I have a 6-octave range. I'm classically trained in opera. So that was there. I played all kinds of music. I did commercials, modeling, television, film when I was a child. I quit because I developed and had the body of a 25-year-old. I'm 5'2", at like 15. So yeah. So I would have, I could have continued that. I would have done Broadway. I coached gymnastics for 9 years. I was a gymnast and a figure skater. So I could have continued doing either of those. Most of you know I'm a writer. But most of you probably don't know I was a photographer for 20 years. I could have continued that. I taught English and some other, my dog, and other subjects. I've had a travel blog. I have multiple Instagrams I do with my photography. And so there's just like everything I've wanted to do. I was a barista. I was, I've done all of those things. And surprisingly, I work in finance right now. So, but, I think that there are all these lives that I could have lived. And I've been fortunate enough to live a small piece of each of them. And I think that that has allowed me to kind of get that taste of what would my life be if I went this way or that way. And I think that helps with the not living with regret. Um, yeah, I think that really helps with it. I mean, my husband now, we've been together 20 years. We just celebrated 20 years together, 16 married. He raised my kids with me. Um, I wouldn't change it. I travel, I do all that stuff now, but I think that I've lived pieces of those lives already. So I'm fortunate, I guess.
That's amazing. That is so cool. Aaron, how about you? Is there a big decision that you would have done differently? And then curious to know what other lives you would have led.
I don't know if there's necessarily anything that I would have done differently. I just feel like there's a lot of things that I missed out on because I did lack self-confidence. You know, growing up, um, here I go again, crybaby Aaron. No, I'm not gonna cry. My parents had me when they were very young and they were never married. My dad ended up going and he joined the Navy and he started a family in a different state. So I sort of grew up in this situation where I didn't really feel like I belonged at either spot. You know what I mean? So I tried to make myself little and I tried to make myself fit in the best I could. You know what I mean? And I didn't look the same as my either of my family. Like, my body is not the same as theirs. I was different than them. Like my parents are very like outgoing and they're not big readers and they're not very studious. And, I'm so it's like I just didn't fit in. And like Victoria said, when you're young, you hear all of these things and you absorb them all. So I felt like I couldn't really express myself. Like I had to just be quiet and, hide, I guess. I mean, now I have a great relationship with my family, but I feel like that has led um even now, like in my mid-30s, I'm still working on my self-confidence. I'm not confident and I missed out on so much because I was too scared to even like, do stupid things like go somewhere and meet new people because I'm scared. Like I don't want someone to say that they don't like me. I don't want to do something wrong. Here I go again every time. You guys need to stop talking about all this personal stuff. I can't handle it. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's why I know some of you were friends on Facebook and you can see me like post things about my kids and how I give them so many like positive affirmations every day. Um my daughter, she's 4. She might be a little bit conceited. No, not really. She's just super self-confident. And that's just because I want them to know how perfect they are. I never want them to feel like they can't express themselves and they can't say what they have to say, like no matter what, even if it's not appropriate. I'm still going to love them and they are allowed to tell me how they feel because that's just open conversation. Anyway, so I give my kids lots of positive affirmations. I want them to be super confident. I want them to feel like they can do anything and they can take on the world because that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be scared to take risks. But my jobs, I guess, or like what I would do differently is I feel like I just want to do something where I could like use my mind and I don't have to do this like monotonous stuff every single day. When I was younger, I really wanted to be like an archaeologist. I think I might have been like a treasure hunter in a past life because even now I'll like scour beaches or like take my little metal detector outside and see what I can find. I never find anything, but it's still fun. So yeah, that's it, I guess. I just want to do something with my mind so I don't just have to go through these like actions every day that mean nothing.
You're not alone in that feeling at all. I feel that way too because we share the same job. I think anybody in our position would feel that way. And I see something in you that is blooming through the way that your daughter behaves. It's almost teaching you how to be that wild, free, sassy spirit. I
Yeah.
really feel like it's going to be pivotal for you to see what she does with it, and it opens you up to it. It's so cool to see the relationship that you have and how wild and crazy and wonderful She is. I adore her.
Thanks.
So thank you for sharing. That's what attracted me to our friendship so much, is that I am such a, I don't know, I fight for everyone that can't seem to get it out for themselves. And I noticed that in you, and I thought, I'm not going to let her feel small ever again. So,
Right, because we
I'll
were
just,
in a situation where you kind of
look
had to,
at what we're doing.
yeah, you
Look at
were
this.
in a situation where you had to stick up for us and you had to, like, you know, really say some difficult things that I wasn't prepared to say. So, and I appreciate that. And that's, I think, the reason why I am attracted to our friendship, because I see that it is okay to express yourself. It is okay to speak your mind, and you can do it in a kind way that, you know, that validates your own feelings, but yet puts up some boundaries. So, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just give you guys a brief little thing about me. You guys know most of you know me personally, but I was going to share my story about choosing not to go to college with a full ride to Notre Dame. And I worked really hard for it at Bishop Brady, which is Catholic high school, and I thought I really wanted it, and I didn't go. I thought that was what it was going to be the thing, but after I did some soul searching, I thought about it, and in 2009, which is really weird, on July 28th, I walked into a bar and met somebody that I spent 11 years with. I gave my entire youth to this person, I feel like. I met her when I was 29, and nothing good came from that situation. Nothing. Not one single slither in 11 years. And it took so much. It is often where I tell you guys, like, I'm a pessimist, and I probably wouldn't have came back to this life, because here I'm going to be 46 years old, and she took my ability to do so many things. So that is what I would have done. I would have not walked into that bar that night. I wish I would have never met her. If I could choose life from before, that's going to be my goal. I'm trying really hard right now to do the things I always wanted to do that I can still do. So, like, I'm pursuing new business opportunities and things like that. But I really think mostly I probably would have been a writer. And I have 45 journals sitting on I've journaled since I was 12. And I've also been a musician. So, played guitar since I was 13 years old, and I actually won a poetry contest in Jules' song, Goodbye Allison in Wonderland, or half the song is my lyrics. So I think I could have been a lyricist or something. So that's that, and we'll wrap up. My last question is, if you could rate this book on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you get it? 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Oh, we're saying 5. Oh, cool. Okay. You can put it up in numbers on your hands if you want. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So this is the best book I've read in 10 years. So thank you, Jessica. Although I do think that it should come with big trigger stuff. Last thing is, Tiff and Patricia are our newest members, and I'm sending something to Patricia anyway. So both of you will get rookie gifts. And I'll just need you guys to message me where I can send them. And then thank everyone for coming. I'll post the MVP in the comments, and then introducing our next book that was chosen by Kristen. It's The Boy Who Followed His Father into Auschwitz. It's a true story, and it's from Jeremy Dunfield. So I'll put more details on our Facebook post, because I know it's late. I appreciate you guys' time. I'm so sorry it took so long. I love seeing you all. And thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait till next week. This is going to be a challenging one, but we all have each other, and I love you. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, guys.